In Matthew chapter 10, Jesus calls his 12 disciples. He calls them to be a part of his family. And he tells them to go out. He tells them to go out into the Gentile world and to tell the people, to the Jewish world, and to tell the people, to spread the good news that he is the Son of God. But he also warns them. He says people are going to hate you. People are going to despise you. Your family is going to despise you and hate you, and they're going to mock you and call you names. But go do it anyway. And he tells them this in Matthew chapter 10, verse 26. Have no fear of them. For nothing is covered that will not be revealed, or hidden that will not be known. What I tell you in the dark, say in the light, and what you hear whispered, proclaim on the housetops. And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? And not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. But even the hairs of your head are all numbered. Fear not, therefore. You are more valuable than many sparrows. So everyone who acknowledges me before men, I will also acknowledge before my Father, who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny before my Father, who is in heaven. You see, we live in this world where we make proclamations. We're like Peter in Matthew chapter 16, when he stood at the shores of the Jordan River, at the edge of the Jordan River in Caesarea Philippi. And we've talked about this past couple weeks, where Peter proclaims proudly, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And, that bold proclamation. And that's what Jesus is saying out the disciples to do, to be bold, to go out to tell the world who he is. And he reminds them, do not deny me. Don't say with your mouth that you know who I am, and then with your actions deny that my existence is a part of your life. Don't deny me. But then later we hear, as Jesus is with the disciples up in the upper room, he's broken bread. He's instituted communion. He took the bread and he broke it and gave it to him and said, "This is my body, which is broken for you. When you eat of it, do this in remembrance of me." And then he took the cup likewise and passed it. And when they drank it, he said, "When you drink this cup, remember my shed blood that was shed for you." He institutes the Lord's Supper. And then after they sang a song, they sang a hymn, they went out. And it tells us in Matthew chapter 26, and when they'd sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives. And Jesus said to them, "You will all fall away because of me this very night. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to Galilee." But Peter answers him, "Though they all fall away because of you, I will never fall away." And Jesus said to him, "Truly I tell you, this very night before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, "Even if I must die with you, I will not deny you." And all the disciples said the same. Bold proclamations are Peter's thing. He loves to stand on the shore and scream out, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God. I will not deny you. Even if everybody else falls away, even if they take my own life, I will not deny you." Verse 69 of chapter 26 of Matthew. Now Peter was sitting outside in the courtyard, and a servant girl came to him and said, "You also are with Jesus of the Galilean." But he denied it before them all, saying, "I don't know what you mean." And when he went out to the entrance, another servant girl saw him and said to him, "This man was with Jesus of Nazareth." And again he denied it with an oath, "I do not know that man." After a little while, the bystanders came up and said to Peter, "Certainly you too are one of them, for your accent betrays you." Then he began to invoke a curse on himself and swear, "I do not know the man." And immediately the rooster crowed, and Peter remembered the saying of Jesus, "Before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times." And he went out and he wept bitterly. Peter's proclamation at Caesarea Philippi is what our faith is based on. But when push came to shove, he crumpled. He denied. And I want to put blame on Peter, and I want to say, what a weakling. But then I think of my own life. I think of me. And if I was in that situation, knowing that if I was one of his followers, if they identified me, if I confessed to that, I would be hung up on the cross right next to him. They would have taken the thief right off of there and said, get up there. I can't put a whole lot of blame on Peter because I deny him daily myself. And I do that because when I look at denying myself and what that means, and that's what Peter was worried about, was himself. And that's our problem, is we're worried about ourselves. And we're worried about us and me and my feelings and what I can get out of life and not what I'm giving to Christ. Christ tells us in Matthew chapter 16, this is right after Peter makes his great confession. In verse 24, then Jesus told the disciples, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. For what will a man profit if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man gain in return for his soul? For the Son of Man is going to come with his angels in the glory of his Father, and then he will repay each person according to what he has done. Truly, I say to you, there are some sitting here who will not taste death until they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Jesus tells the disciples and Peter right after he makes that confession, deny yourself and take up my cross. But when Peter had the opportunity to deny himself and take up Jesus' cross, literally to be put on the cross next to him, he denied he even knew the man. He made an oath that he did not know the man. He cursed himself and said, I don't know that man. Now we look at what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 10. Does that mean that Peter is going to be stuck in this realm of not knowing who Jesus is because he denied him? That Jesus is going to deny that Peter was part of his family? Is Jesus going to deny knowing me because I've denied knowing him? Because I've denied him in my life and I have thought about my own interests over him? That I put things of this world more important than him? Is that time going to come? Am I up the creek without a paddle? Was Peter. When Jesus resurrected, when they went to check on the grave, the tomb where he was laid in Joseph of Arimathea's tomb, they found nothing but emptiness. And when the disciples and the women had interactions with Jesus and the angels, I love that point blank Jesus said, tell Peter that I'm alive. It tells me that Jesus cared about Peter. In fact, even more so, after Jesus had resurrected in John chapter 21, Jesus is sitting on the shores of the Sea of Galilee, and the disciples are out on a boat, and whatever way his identity was covered. They didn't recognize who he was, but he calls out, did you catch anything? This is the early morning, and he's got a fire there on the side of the shore. Did you catch anything? And they holler out, no, nothing. And Jesus said, throw your nets out. And they pulled in a haul. And it tells us in John chapter 21 that the disciple whom Jesus loved, which is John himself, which I think is pretty self-pat on the back that he refers to him that, says to Peter, it's the Lord. And it says that when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he put on his outer garment, for he was stripped from it for work, and he threw himself into the sea. The other disciples came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish. Peter heard that it was the Lord and realized it, and he jumped into the water because he wanted to be with Jesus. After he had denied who he was, after he had proclaimed he was the Christ, after he'd done everything, he wanted to be there. And tells us verse 15, when they had finished breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he said to him, feed my lambs. He said to him a second time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And he said to him, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. And he said to him, tend to my sheep. And he said to him the third time, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was grieved because he said to him a third time, do you love me? And he said to him, Lord, you know everything, and you know that I love you. Jesus said to him, feed my sheep. Truly, truly, I say to you, when you were young, you used to dress yourself and walk wherever you wanted. But when you are old, you will stretch out your hand, and another will dress you and carry you where you do not want to go. This he said to show him by the kind of death that he was to glorify God in. And after saying this, he said to them, follow me. Jesus, after being in the presence of Peter, hearing him proclaim that he was the Christ, the Son of the living God, Jesus telling Peter, you're going to deny me 3 times, and then hearing him say, I will never deny you or leave you. Jesus, after sitting in a courtyard, being persecuted, sees Peter deny him 3 times. How heartbreaking that must have been. But Jesus, sitting on the shore with a man who had denied him, looks at Peter and says, follow me. And if he can do that for Peter, he can do it for you. And he can do it for me. Because Jesus knows what's in the heart. And he knew Peter's heart. That even though his words and his actions at that moment may have been utter denial and utter disdain to him, he said, I still love you. I have still called you to be my servant. Now let's get busy. So we have to ask ourselves, how do we deny ourselves? How do we deny the lives we have? In preparation for sermons, I listen to hundreds of sermons. I read documents. I read sermon outlines. And I go through, I want to hear what other people have to say and thoughts. And there are 4-point, 5-point, 10-point steps of denying yourself. But the thing I keep coming back to is it's not that complicated. There's not that many things we have to do if we do the main thing. In John chapter 15 says this, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes, that it may bear more fruit. Already you are clean because of the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me, and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit by itself, unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, and you are the branches. Whoever abides in me, and I in him, he is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is thrown away like a branch and withers, and the branches are gathered and thrown in the fire and burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, ask whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, and so prove to be my disciples. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Abide in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will abide in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and abide in his love. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be full. This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, than someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for that I have heard from my Father I have made known to you. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, that your fruit should abide, so that whatever you ask in the name of my Father, he may give it to you. These things I have commanded you, so that you will love one another. The key to living a life that is self-denial and not denying him is so simple. It's abiding in him. It's living in him daily. It's knowing that I'm going to make mistakes. It's knowing that I am going to fail. It's knowing that I am going to fall. It's knowing that I am going to be like Peter in one moment proclaiming that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God. And the next moment I'm saying, I don't know that man. Thing is, in both of those instances, he knows you. He knows you as his child, that he is called to be a part of his family. So the simple way of knowing I am self-denying, and Christ's non-denial is abiding in him. And when that time comes and my life is over, I can assuredly stand before him and hear him say, "Well done, good and faithful servant." But that is only going to happen if you abide in him and deny yourself. Take up his cross that he laid down for you. Abide. Have a great week.